Preseason game number 2 is in the books for the Dallas Cowboys, and tonight we'll talk about Deuce Vaughn giving us a reminder, right? A message within the lines of y'all must have forgot. And we'll talk about that. We'll talk about Trey Lance and much more from the Cowboys-Raiders game. Let's get to it. What is up, everyone, and welcome into A to Z Sports Dallas Primetime. My name is Mauricio Rodriguez, streaming with you live every Sunday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central here on Dallas On Demand Sports Talk Network. And as always, catching up with you guys Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday with quick-hitting videos. But tonight, we've got a good while to talk about the Cowboys-Raiders game. Dallas won this time around, but as you know, we don't care about scoreboards in preseason games. We just don't care about that. However, it was exciting to see Dallas go out there and not only see Trey Lance lead this offense into the end zone multiple times, but also to see the defense just straight up make the Raiders quarterbacks struggle when they were fighting for a starting role and the Cowboys were not playing their defensive starters. Now, that was easy to enjoy, but there's also a lot that we learned, and that's what we're going to dive into tonight. Do me a favor, hit the like button for me if you enjoy the show. That helps out tremendously, and let's dive right into it. Let's talk about Deuce Vaughn. To me, that's one of the biggest stories coming out of this game easily, and the reason is simple. Deuce Vaughn was beginning to feel like an underdog, a very significant underdog in the running back battle. It started to feel like Royce Freeman was above him, that even Malik Davis had a shot to be above him. And with him missing time in training camp and also missing the preseason opener, things were just not looking great for the former 6th-round draft pick. However, fast forward to Saturday night, and you know, emphasis on night because, man, that game started late. Deuce Vaughn had 5 rushing attempts, worth 34 yards. That's an average of 6.8 yards per attempt. And I cannot remember if he had a catch. Looking at the numbers right now, he didn't. So it was just the running and the pass protection for Deuce Vaughn. And I thought it was a pretty good game for him. Now, is it enough? Now is the question. And you can let me know in the comments, what do you think about this? Was Saturday night's game enough to put Deuce Vaughn in the front seat of the running back 4, if we're counting Hunter Lipke as a running back in the running back 4 battle? Was that enough, or does Deuce Vaughn still need to do more? This is the dilemma or the challenge that I believe Deuce Vaughn is facing at this point. I don't think that Deuce can win this battle in practice. And a lot of these battles, sure, we get to see them on the field in the preseason, but I would assume the coach's decisions when it comes to like who makes the roster or who gets each role largely depends on what goes on in practice, what we don't see in a game. And I think that for Deuce, honestly, what sways the whole conversation his way is game day specifically. And the reason why I say that is, think of those Deuce Vaughn plays against the Raiders, right? There was the spin move that he hit to get to the second level. There was this one that he kind of like bounces outside. Linebackers are lost because they quite literally cannot see where number 42 is. And then he just like kind of dives, but like he's so short that his dive can get him an extra 3 yards sometimes. You know exactly what I'm talking about with Deuce. A lot of those type of reps, you see them at practice and the whistle is blown and you just assume that, okay, the tackle happened here. But come game day, that doesn't translate. Because when it's game day and when they actually have to bring Deuce Vaughn to the ground, it seems like number 42 just keeps finding ways to escape the tackles, right? That's what gets me excited about this particular performance from Deuce Vaughn. Now, Cowboys want to see more out of him in pass pro, and I'm not sure we saw a lot of that other than what he did out of empty formations when he is chipping defenders, right? And we saw that play in joint practice against the Rams where he chips Jared Bears and then Tyler Guyton pancakes Jared Bears on that particular rep. We saw like This was at the end of the first half when Trey Lance was trying to set up Brandon Aubrey for an insane 66-yard field goal. And the Cowboys are running a lot of empty formations, and Deuce is always close to the line of scrimmage, ready to deliver a strike. And he hits a lot of them. I don't want to say that he sends defenders to the ground, right? Because that's just not what Deuce Vaughn is going to do. He's just going to help out the edge rusher a little bit, right? He's going to help him with that little chip, and then the tackle is going to be able to do whatever he can do to keep him away from the quarterback. There is one play where it's hilarious, and I don't have the clip, but hopefully tomorrow I get the old 22 and we can look at these sort of plays. There's one where Deuce is getting ready to strike, right, like the chip block, and he just catches air and he just flies to the ground, and it's pretty funny because it's like Deuce's effort, because he's so small, to like jump upwards and try to deliver that blow. And it's cool to see, but then he misses and he goes to the ground, and it's a pretty funny play. And I'm not criticizing him or knocking him for that one rep. I'm just bringing up the fact that it was funny, I thought. But Deuce Vaughn had a very positive game. The question now, though, as I said before we broke it down a little bit, is it enough or not? And that is going to be such a complicated question to answer, because it seems to me that game day is what could sway things Deuce's direction, but there's so many practices in between that are largely going to factor into the Cowboys conversation, internally at least. Let's see what you guys have to say, though. Pete Hernandez says, yep, it should be enough. Cam says he did play against first teamers, which is very important, right? Luis says, have to say Deuce did well. Malik got 10 yards off the bat with the first string down the gut. And it's funny, man, because Malik Davis did have that play, 9-yard run to begin the action. But then he averaged like 2 yards per carry. And he had similar numbers last week versus the Rams. But the thing is, how much stock can you put into that, knowing that the blocking up front is not a starting offensive line and all that? It's difficult to tell. Now, also, we cannot act like, oh, we have never seen this before from Deuce. You know what I mean? Like, we already saw Deuce Vaughn kill it in the preseason last year. And you still saw some struggles in the regular season. And what I'm trying to say is, not necessarily I'm trying to dissuade you from buying Deuce Vaughn stock, but I'm trying to say it doesn't guarantee him anything, basically. But I could see the Cowboys sitting down at the meeting room and looking at the depth chart and being like, okay, so we've got sick Enrico Dowdle, and I know some people are, maybe rightfully so, discussing the whole notion about, should Sick's spot be as guaranteed as we make it out to be? And I think that's a fair conversation to have. But for now, though, knowing how the Cowboys, or what the Cowboys are thinking, we know that those two are locks, right? And then Hunter Lipke is a fullback / tight end, so he's making the roster anyways. So there's really one other running back that is going to be on this team, and that is either going to be Malik Davis, Royce Freeman, or Deuce Vaughn. And Snoop Connor is also on the team. Nathan Pitt is also on the team, but it seems it's going to go down to one of those three: Malik Davis, Royce Freeman, or Deuce Vaughn. And I would make Malik Davis a little bit of a long shot there, even though I know Mike McCarthy loves Malik Davis and he plays special teams, so that could also help him out and his case out. But if you're the Cowboys and you're looking at those three running backs, is Malik Davis a very different player than Rico Dowdle is? And is Royce Freeman a very different player than Rico Dowdle is? Because Rico is pretty balanced. And I would assume Malik Davis and Royce Freeman, if you're trying to find a archetype of a running back to really fit them into, I would say they all fall into that balanced running back category. I don't think any of those is like a pass catcher specialist or a super immensely good player in pass pro, or, you know, a speed back, power back. I don't think any of those three really fits into one very specific role. And Deuce Vaughn, you just look at him and it's like, okay, he's something different. And that's a big reason, in my opinion, for the Cowboys to carry Deuce Vaughn on the 53-man roster. If I'm making the case for number 42 to be on this team, that's where I'm starting. He is something different with an upside that none of the other running backs really presents to you. So the question now is for the Cowboys it's up now to the Cowboys to decide that they want to roll the dice again on that project and potentially have a player that can do some stuff that the other running backs can't, like just simply be an elusive back out of the backfield that you can trust on to break out a big gainer. But maybe the downside to it is that he's not going to be as good as a pass protector as Royce Freeman is. He might not be as balanced as Royce Freeman is. We can talk all we want about him being a pass catcher, but the catch radius is obviously small. So there's some limits to what you can do with him as a receiver, even if you're putting him out there. And even when you put him out there, there are going to be instances where he just misses his target in pass pro or when he gets bullied. Honestly, we're going to see some of that from teams trying to counter Deuce Vaughn. But I kind of think that Deuce has a legitimate shot at beating out Freeman, beating out Malik Davis. And Mike McCarthy did praise his work after the game, the post-game press conference. He was pretty positive about Deuce. He praised specifically Vaughn's ability to bounce back from injury because he's already been dealing with multiple injuries 2 years into his career. And he hit the ground running now that he was back, right? Let's not forget that he was out for about 2 weeks before rejoining the team and being ready to go for a game day. So that was pretty cool. I think he has a legitimate chance at making the roster. Freeman has the special teams value that McCarthy mentioned earlier in the year, and same for pass pro. It just seems to me that Deuce Vaughn has that unique playmaking style that could intrigue the Cowboys a little bit. But it was fun to see him out there, and I love that he turned it up, honestly, Deuce, because I was afraid that he was going to go out there and maybe have lackluster performance, and that would have felt like it was it for Deuce in Dallas because he already was on the roster bubble. But now he seems to be back in the running at the very least. Now, Luis does make a very good point here. He says hamstrings usually reoccur. So if you're dealing with that soft tissue injury, it's always going to be a struggle for the entirety of the season if you don't rehab properly. Now, that is for Deuce Vaughn, but there's some other running backs that I know people want to learn more from. Isidro says they have plans for Hunter Lipke. We don't know that, but I'm not exactly sure what that was in response to. But Holly had said, I agree, I want to see more Lipke. I kind of feel like Hunter Lipke we have not seen enough of because he's already in. That guy is on the team. That guy is on the 53-man roster. And I would speculate a bit as to whether or not the Cowboys are going to carry 3 tight ends, knowing that they can give Hunter Lipke that role on game day as well, like that 4th tight end type role. I think the Cowboys are open to that. They've admittedly cross-trained Hunter Lipke this year, so it would make a lot of sense if the Cowboys are playing this numbers game for them to carry 4 running backs and 3 tight ends. Or they could be like, we're still going to carry 4 tight ends, but then where are they going short? Because I don't see them not carrying 3 quarterbacks. I don't see them not carrying 6 wideouts. And you got to go with 9 offensive linemen minimum. And then there's the defense side of things that is a whole other conversation, right? But speaking of the offense, let's move on a little bit and let's talk about the guy throwing the ball around. Let's talk about Deuce Vaughn. Let me know in the comments, let me know in the chat, how would you grade Trey Lance's performance last night against the Las Vegas Raiders? How would you grade Trey Lance? Because it was a much more positive outing than the one that he had in the preseason opener. Now, we gotta get into this conversation about how much we should hype up Trey Lance's game against Las Vegas as well, but it's a difficult one to grade. I thought there was some good. I thought there was some bad. One of the things that I liked the most is that I could count a few more passes where the anticipation was clearly there, because that was one of my biggest knocks on Trey Lance's season opener. Every play that he made, it seemed like it always happened late within the play, right? So it was out of structure. It was Trey Lance running out of the pocket. It was Trey Lance scrambling to move the chains. And sure, making some big plays, but still, you didn't see him play within that structure of the offense, which is honestly what we all want to see and find out that he can do, right? But we did see more of those plays. We did see a Trey Lance that was a little bit more determined, I would say, in his game and how he approached it. And there was still a lot of plays that you didn't see the anticipation. And that's fair, but that's progress. Mike McCarthy said it clearly, sent a firm message, and I actually have the quote around here. Let me try to find it so we are all on the same page here. But Mike McCarthy said, and I quote, "I thought we improved today, starting with Trey. The third down conversions, we missed a couple there, but 2 14-play drives, that's incredible for preseason football. It just shows you Lance's understanding and confidence, and he just needs to continue to play. He needs reps." This is what they've been telling us since May, by the way. McCarthy continued, "He needs to play in live games, particularly in the drop back phase. He's doing a very good job managing everything else, so I thought he clearly took a step today." So obviously that's pretty important for Dallas. And the final numbers for Trey Lance were 15 completions out of 23 attempts for 151 yards, 1 touchdown. But then you can add to that 34 rushing yards, 1 touchdown. It was a pretty good game. And as I said, man, I don't want to say it was perfect, but I'm excited and encouraged by the progress from week 1 to week 2. I honestly thought, just looking at last week's game, that it was going to be a struggle for him to beat out Cooper Rush for the QB2 job specifically. But now, I kind of cannot help but be like, hey, listen, man. He's not perfect, but no backup quarterbacks in the NFL are. So if you put aside all of the first-round bust conversation and you kind of ignore it, Trey Lance is clearly somebody with more upside than Cooper Rush. And that might be enough to make him QB2. Now, there's 2 kinds of upsides that we're talking about. We can talk long-term upside, right? What can the Cowboys develop him to? And I don't think there's a lot of difference once the season kicks off between being the number 2 or the number 3 guy, because they're not going to play unless there's an injury to Dak Prescott. Now, with that being said, I'm also talking about the upside for game day. And I kind of think of those college football teams where the first team QB is a pocket passer, field general type, and then they get injured. And the number 2 guy is a mobile quarterback that the offense can run the Wildcat with and do all sorts of stuff, to the point where the starting QB goes down, then the team still has somewhat of an advantage, and it's like, oh, you game planned for my guy, but here's what my backup can do. And you did not game plan for this because you were not expecting to see him. And I kind of like that with Trey Lance as the active QB for game days, right? So if the Cowboys are going to go with an emergency QB and have that be the inactive guy, I could see that being Cooper Rush. Plus, you could maybe keep him in the practice squad for a while, handshake deal, and just keep him there. But Trey Lance might represent that game day upside as well, even with the inexperience, just because he can run that football, man. Trey Lance is athletic as hell. He keeps making some wild plays with his athleticism. It's pretty cool to see, right? The runs are cool. The Cowboys are running some concepts that they wouldn't run with Dak, in my opinion, or that we have not seen them run. And I'm talking about read option, but I'm also talking about some sprinkles here and there where the Cowboys back-to-back games now, they have run a read option, but with an arc blocker. And that means usually when you run inside zone, there's a blocker that is going behind the line of scrimmage in what they call the split flow block, and he's basically sealing the edge. Well, the Cowboys back-to-back weeks now, and I don't have the clips right now, but they've done this thing where the blocker that is running behind the line of scrimmage to seal the edge fakes the edge and instead becomes a lead blocker for the quarterback in case that he keeps it. And the Cowboys have been successful with that twice now, and that's the kind of things that I like to see also when Trey Lance is running the offense. But again, overall, positive game. Still some accuracy issues. Absolutely. Those are undeniable. There were misses. There's a slant that he throws behind Jalen Cropper, but there's also so many of these plays where completions are being made, but he's asking so much from the receivers, right? He's asking them to jump forward them. He's asking them to fully extend their arms and maybe stop and adjust. And there's not this easygoing flow of like hitting them in stride and then them gaining yards after the catch. But still improvement, still a positive outing. I would go with a B- for Trey Lance on Saturday night versus the Rams, but obviously much better than last week. I'm looking forward to seeing your answers, though. So I'm going B-. What does the chat say? Holly says B- as well. I like that. Betsy went with B-. Katharina went with C. Jay Money went with B. Guru went with C+. Luis Ortiz, B-. Eric Green, C+. Gregory goes with the B. Cheryl gives him a B. Solid C from Cam. We've got 5. We've got a C+. We've got a B-. So, we are in the range, I think, right? We are in the C+, B- range in general. But I liked it. I really do. And also this should be a conversation of, well, how good Cooper Rush is really. How good is he really? Because obviously we like the fact that he won games when Dak Prescott was out, but the defense was making a lot of plays. The Cowboys were not doing a whole lot offensively with Cooper Rush. So I think he's got a legit shot at QB2. Feel much better about his chances now than after the preseason opener. I think the preseason opener was rough. I honestly had him listed as a loser after that game. Today, though, he feels like a winner out of Saturday night's game, because today I do think his stock improved and he put himself in a position to really battle Cooper Rush. Still some practices left to go, though, before the start of the regular season. You still have another preseason game for next week, Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern time, so that's going to be fun against the Chargers. But for now, though, Trey Lance looking good. Guru with a good question here before we get to the other notes. Did Jalen Cropper kill his chances for the 53-man roster? That's a good question, because I couldn't help but think something along those lines. When I was like, well, Jalen Cropper had some drops now, and Ryan Flournoy had some pretty good moments. Like the fade that Trey Lance connects, and we were talking about Trey Lance, and maybe we could have gone deeper into the throws. He had that fade shot to Ryan Flournoy. He threw it very well, like it was a well-positioned pass, but Ryan Flournoy made that happen, right? Like it was such a good play from Flournoy. I didn't see the final numbers here, but Cropper had, let's see how many drops Cropper had, or if it was just the one. Yeah, so Cropper had one, Flournoy had another. So if you look at the numbers, maybe they were somewhat similar plays, but Cropper did not have a catch, while Flournoy had 4, and one of them was the touchdown. I don't think he killed them, Guru. I really don't. But I think then he had the fumble also on special teams, which was one of his major advantages. I feel like he was trending towards running away with wide receiver 6. And now the door is wide open and Flournoy is on the rise, right? Like Flournoy is right there to take advantage of it. It's still a battle. I think it's not decided. I think this is still up for grabs, but it does feel like Guru just cracked that door wide open. He kicked it in and he's inviting everybody into the party now. And it's not going to be easy for him to keep that role. Because I think that's the issue. And you go back to the preseason opener, and Cropper didn't have the most reliable hands either. He made a very good catch behind his shoulders in that in-breaking route that we criticized. That we criticized the pass, rather, because it was behind. And he made that impressive catch. But there were some all other plays where he was bobbling the football a little bit. So I do think that he's wide open right now. Guru says Cropper had that killer fumble on punt return. I think that hurts him. I think that hurts him real bad. Because it was one of his advantages. Like, just straight up, looking at his value on special teams. Isidro says the 53 is going to be fought out. Man, it really is. I'm wondering who is the last running back. I'm wondering who is the last wide receiver. I'm wondering if one of the tight ends cracks into the whole thing. I don't know what to make out of the final spot on the offensive line because Josh Ball might be it. Now that Chuma Edoga is hurt and Earl Bostic Jr. is hurt, I think Josh Ball has that role right now. But then you also wonder, well, what if Nathan Thomas is healthy and then they want to keep him on the team or something like that? And then defensively, they're battling for that linebacker spot. They are battling for that final cornerback spot. Safety is weird because you've got 4 ballers at safety, but then Julius Wood is making some noise, right? And it's a weird, as Isidro said, it's a fun battle everywhere across the board at 53 man. Now, speaking of, we've got other notes from the game. We already talked about Deuce Vaughn. We talked some about Trey Lance. Man, let's stick with the cornerbacks, shall we? Because let me tell you something that I've learned early in camp. Wrote this as a headline for A to Z Sports even. Keemon Hall is not listed on DallasCowboys.com. And it has to be an oversight, right? Because Jordan Phillips and Carl Lawson are on the roster, on the website. And they were added a few days ago. Meanwhile, Keemon Hall was added at the end of July. I think it was July 28th. And he's still not on that roster. You look for number 43, he's not on there. You look with the search function, you look for Keemon Hall, he's not in there. But Keemon Hall might be on the 53-man roster. That is a legitimate possibility as of now. Second interception of his preseason with the Cowboys. This one went for a pick 6. And it was a pretty good play, right? It was a bad throw from the QB as well. But Keemon Hall is reading this whole thing all the way through, and he jumps on the ball right in time, runs through it, and gets to the end zone. Great play from Keemon Hall. Had some bad moments. He allowed a 4th down conversion. At one point in the game, the pass is thrown to the flat, and he kind of wants to hit the hit stick, lay the boom, and go for the big hit. And he misses the tackle. So there were some rough moments for Keemon Hall as well. But those 2 picks, some other plays in coverage that he had, and he was pretty good. He was the highest graded player on the Cowboys defense versus the Raiders. So this guy is on the rise. And the thing is, you look at the cornerback room, and that 5th spot for a cornerback is wide open, right? Because the top 4 is locked. The starters in Trevon Diggs, Daron Bland, Jordan Lewis, 5th-round draft pick, Kalen Carson, isn't going anywhere, so he's a lock. And then the guys that are competing for that other spot, there's Andrew Booth, a newcomer, and Luis Ortiz says he's not beating Booth. They threw at Booth almost every play, 7 solo tackles. And that's a little bit ironic because those were still 12 targets and 9 catches allowed. And we might catch Andrew Booth cut Andrew Luck some slack, because maybe it has to do with the fact that the Cowboys were playing off-ball coverage. There was a lot of cushion involved. And a lot of these catches that Andrew Booth allowed were pretty much thrown where he was like 5 yards downfield and he had to make the tackle, right? So, sure, Andrew Booth did a great job tackling. I don't think that he showed us anything in coverage, honestly. Not a whole lot, at least. He did allow that 30-yard completion early in the game. There was another play later that the receiver dropped, but it would be a 20-yard gain or something like that. So those would have been 2 plays where he got burned downfield. So, yeah, I did not love Andrew Booth, right? And I think Andrew Booth is far from that lock. So the way that I see it is Keemon Hall could absolutely beat Andrew Booth. Absolutely could. He has those tackles, I know, but the coverage was not great. And then Josh DeVary is not going to be in the race, I think. Josh Butler might be. I have not really focused on Josh Butler, so I cannot tell you how good he is playing, honestly. But clearly he hasn't done enough to be like, oh, it's going to be Josh Butler. And then Eric Scott is a little bit more of the same, right? Had some struggles, had that pick last week, but also was picked on by the Rams last week. And then with the Raiders, it was a bit of a balanced performance. But right now, I kind of think that if I think that in my next roster projection, I'm just going to go with a hot take route, not so hot take route, and just put Kemon Hall in there. Because he might be the best cornerback that we've seen in Dallas fighting for that spot, honestly. It's tough, though. Guru does say, how many cornerbacks are we keeping? That's a big part of this conversation. And I think it's going to be 5. So the way that I've done it in my last couple of roster projections, so in my way too early one, which was pre-training camp, I had 6 of them. Now I'm doing 5 per projection, basically. And this is just a numbers game. It can't go any other way. Some people have been talking about, could Dallas carry a 5th safety maybe? And that would not allow you to do 6 corners, in my opinion. Now, I'm not counting CJ Goodwin as a corner here. I'm just gonna treat CJ Goodwin as what he is to the Cowboys, which is a special teams ace that does not play corner. I think it would be a surprise to me if they carry 6 corners. I think it would be a surprise because it's a numbers game, but also it has to become at one point a player's game. Mike McDaniel was talking about this, Dolphins head coach, earlier when he was like, you got to let the players dictate the roster. And I don't think that the players are dictating the Cowboys to carry 6 corners right now. I think you might carry a 5th linebacker before you do that. You might carry a 6th defensive end before you carry the 6th corner. In my opinion, that's the way that I see it. But we'll see how they make this work. Now, among my other notes beyond Kemon Hall, regarding the cornerback competition, Isi Mukwamu is in the corner competition. He's not in the safety competition, I believe. First preseason game that he played, he's been dealing with injury. He was back for this one. Had 17 snaps at nickel, and then had like 1 snap at a corner, 1 snap in the box, 1 snap in the defensive line. Sounds like Isi Mukwamu is fighting for a corner spot, not a safety spot, which I thought was pretty notable. I already talked about Booth, 3rd worst defensive grade, by the way, from PFF among Cowboys defenders. Talked about allowing 9 catches in 12 targets. We talked about the deep plays. It's difficult to evaluate where Andrew Booth is at, honestly. Former 2nd rounder from my beloved Clemson Tigers, but still not enough, in my opinion, to have that spot secured. I think the other big headline of the game, and you know it, I know it, everyone who has watched it or has listened to any show of the relating to the Cowboys knows this. Cooper Beebe and Tyler Guyton are it, man. They are fun to watch. Tyler Guyton is funny because I don't know that Tyler Guyton entered the conversation when he was drafted by the Cowboys as a mean bully in the trenches, right? When Tyler Smith got to Dallas, we talked about Tyler Smith being that sort of nasty, and we talked about Cooper Beebe in the same light this year. Tyler Guyton, I don't think we talked about enough in that sense. We talked about how athletic he was, how quickly he can move laterally, how easy he makes it look because he's a former basketball player and he played defensive line and he did this and he did that. But Tyler Guyton is showing us a level of nasty that is fun to watch in conjunction with what Cooper Beebe is doing at center. There's that one play in the 2nd quarter where Tyler Guyton just buries the defensive end, waits for him to get up, and then just buries him again, right? Like, Tyler Guyton has had multiple such plays so far in 2 preseason games, and I'm loving it. First play of the game, Tyler Guyton beating out Max Crosby and doing his thing. He is so strong. He's fun to watch. He is getting accurate with those punches, and maybe the technique is not perfect still, but that stops being the question at this point. It's enough for Tyler Guyton to be an NFL starter, and I gotta be honest with you, I'm just like, we criticize the Cowboys for the way that they do so many things, free agency, contract extensions, this, that, the other, the fact that they are doing things like this with Dak and CD, blah, blah, blah. But they're, excuse me, so unbelievably good at picking offensive linemen. Like, it's just otherworldly what they do. Tyler Guyton was great. Tyler Guyton so far this season is the 9th best graded tackle by Pro Football Focus 2 weeks into the preseason. Now, you might think, well, it's a preseason, it doesn't matter that much. Well, let me just put it into context, right? I'm not trying to convince you that Guyton is exactly the 9th best tackle in the league. I'm trying to say there are 182 other tackles on that list. And Tyler Guyton has been 9th, and he's a rookie, and he's faced Max Crosby at least temporarily last night. He has dealt with Jarrett Bears. He has survived the Micah Parsons experience in practice. It's as legit as it comes, man. Tyler Guyton is really special. Makes me feel so much better about one of the decisions that I criticized a whole lot. What happened there? What happened with the camera? What? We kind of lost the camera for some reason. I don't know what is going on here, but man, you're getting a behind the scenes look. There you go. We're back. What was that? I don't know what just went down with the software here, but it happens, I guess. Makes me feel so much better about Tyron Smith living, which was a decision that I absolutely hated from the Cowboys, because I thought they could have paid Tyron Smith, but they decided not to. Justin says, you got hacked, bro. Seems like it, right? Seems like I was briefly hacked there for a second, but you could get a behind-the-scenes sneak peek there to the whole scenario that is behind me. It's the Illuminati Mo. Oh, man, that's trouble. Guru says Mo Show is being hacked, man. Nah, we're okay. And now Cooper Beebe now. That conversation is over, isn't it? Like, Brock Hoffman has no way of winning back the starting role because Cooper Beebe is not letting it go. There are several reasons for that. Number one, the whole trouble with the snap thing is gone, or I didn't notice it for this preseason game. There's been some clips from practice where you're like, oh, that's rough. But on game day, it has not happened. Chances are that Cooper Beebe has just fixed it, I guess. He's worked his tail off this offseason, right? We heard about his mother snapping the football, playing quarterback for him so he could snap the ball again and again and again. He worked so hard, then struggled with it early in camp, and then suddenly it seems like it just clicked for him. He kind of found the right way to go about it, and now he's being so consistent with it to the point where it's not a concern anymore. I don't think any of us is concerned about Cooper's accuracy with his snaps. Now, could there be a mistake early in the season? Sure, there likely will be one. But now the transition from going to snap to blocking, he just looks so comfortable. It looks like he's put in the hours to get into that rhythm. And he's still showing you what he showed you at guard when he was at Kansas State, right? He's showing you climb to the second level and bury defenders. He's showing you what we talked about last week, where he's like initiating contact and then moving to the second level. He's identifying stunts every single time when he is in pass pro. He's anchoring. He's just so good, man. He's frustrating defenders. Now, it's important for me to point out that he faced starters on Saturday night, right? He faced Wilkins. He faced Jenkins. These are guys that are starters in the NFL, that were starters last year. So Cooper Beebe is not handling preseason defensive linemen. He's handling actual NFL defensive linemen. Pretty encouraging game as well for him. There's so many plays that he can point to, but he did have one where he reaches the second level untouched. Cooper Beebe does, and buries a defender like the way that he did when he was in college, and that was fun to see. What else did we get from the game? This is kind of a weird one, but it's more about scheme rather than anything else. Mike Zimmer is going to be a bit of a sicko in 2024, a blitz-type sicko. And I say that because usually defensive coordinators want to keep things vanilla in August. Not Mike Zimmer. Twice he ran not a double A gap blitz. It wasn't a double A gap blitz. It was a double B gap blitz, but the same B gap. So Mike Zimmer had like a three technique and had an edge rusher right on one side of the offensive line. And then he had two defenders, a defensive back and a linebacker, blitzing through the B gap and just overloading the heck out of that side of the offensive line to the point where math didn't matter. The trade-off was that he had to announce it a whole lot. He had Marshawn Nealon dropping on the opposite side of the blitz, dropping back into coverage. And this is preseason. What is Mike Zimmer going to cook up for the regular season, I wonder? I love that we see a lot of double-A gap looks in preseason and a lot of variations off of it. Sometimes it's the two backers going at it. One time one drops, the other one it's the other. So they're practicing the this guy stuff, even in the preseason. That is exciting to watch. I'm just excited about, Mike Zimmer taking over this defense and what he's bringing to the table. What else do I have here? I think Viliami Fehoko is a loser for the second consecutive preseason game. And I don't mean that as Viliami Fehoko is a loser. I meant it as his stock is down. A loser out of this game, right? Because I think Viliami Fehoko for the second consecutive preseason game, he played a whole lot, didn't do much. And I think it was somewhat of a negative sign that Mike Zimmer just told us last week, hey, the Viliami Fehoko experiment inside is pretty much done. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but he said that about Chauncey Golston, and he said that about Junior Fehoko. And he said, hey, we're not going to play them inside that much anymore. Now, who knows what that meant originally, but you were still seeing Viliami Fehoko play inside late in the game, you know? And I kind of thought that was like, they're just trying stuff with him and see what sticks. It seems to me that Fehoko is out of the roster right now. I wouldn't include him on my 53-man roster, even more so with Carl Lawson joining the picture, because right now my 5 defensive ends would likely be Micah, Lawrence, Nealand, Lawson, and Golston. That's how I would structure it right now. Now, El-Quaidin Muhammad could be in the conversation. Tyrus Wett could maybe be in the conversation as well. But that's how I view it. Man, why do we keep losing? Is this like a cable thing that we're struggling with right now, or what is going on? That was weird. Again, it happened for the second time. We're being, as you guys said, we're being hacked here. Those are my early impressions out of this game. Julius Wood might make things difficult at safety. Marquise Bell, again, played a whole lot. Juan J. Thomas. How about Juan J. Thomas? Early in the game, he's playing center field, and he's going to get the post from up top, but then sees the dig and just goes to the dig, and they showed us the end zone view during the live broadcast, which really showed how impressive that play was. And he's there to deliver the boom, break up the pass, and then later how he closes in on the quarterback to just swat the ball away. By the way, Maurice Leofau, I want to see the old 22 and really focus on Leofau because PFF had him graded quite negatively. But I thought he had a good game, and particularly when the Raiders were in the red zone, Maurice Leofau had a back-to-back play sequence that I really liked. One was where he just shoots the gap and kind of goes under with some sort of rip move, really lowering his shoulders, getting past the offensive lineman, and making the impressive tackle. That was pretty cool to see. And then later, one play later, he drops back into his zone, but he's looking at the running back. He sees that the running back is still in pass pro, and the QB is just breaking out of the pocket, going to the right. And once he sees that the running back is not running a route, Maurice Leofau closes in on the QB with lightning speed. And it was so fun to see because I know Maurice was fast at Notre Dame, but I also know it wasn't what he was known for. But he looks good out there. He looks good out there. And that is fun to see as well. But we'll break it down further as the week moves on. For now, though, thank you for watching the show. Hit the like button for me if you enjoy this type of content. You know that we are around every Sunday and Thursday night, 8 p.m. Central. And Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I've got short, quick-hitting videos for you talking about the Dallas Cowboys. Hit the like button for me, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.